Assalamu alaikum, family. You're tuned into the Sajda channel, Ramadan Mubarak. We're going to be talking this morning about the art of restoration. And if you missed this because you're busy doing your Ramadan prayers and you're reading, and you don't wake up at the before the crack of dawn like I do to get it done and out of the way, I totally understand, and you'll be able to go back here and listen to the repeat or the replay. So be a friend and tell a friend if they're available and interested in logging in. And we're going to be talking about Al-Mu'ir, the restoration. I'll be right back.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judges, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Ramadan Mubarak. I'm going to jump right in because we got a lot to go over and a lot to cover today. Thank you for bearing with me. I was just going to say this to you all last week. Now, both of my spaces are in very old buildings. And so the internet game in these old buildings is a whole nother thing, right? We're still trying to solve it. I won't bore you with all of that. But needless to say, thank you for your patience with me this last couple of months as we get this all figured out. But like I said, in these old buildings where you got lots of brick and plaster and all that stuff, the internet game's a whole nother thing. You almost have to be sitting on top of the router in order to get a signal, because a lot of times, because there's plaster walls and brick walls, the signal don't even go through the walls. You know, like we have drywall in our new homes, you could put the router, say like in one room, and it'll cover like the whole floor or the whole house. Not the case in these old buildings. But anyway, let's get into our subject matter today. And for those of you who don't know, I'm your host, Sajda Wendy Muhammad. People say I don't introduce myself enough, and I'm working on doing a better job with that. It's hard because we always identify ourselves by what we've accomplished. But I'm an international business and real estate professional. I'm an artist, and business is my canvas. I'm a historic preservation consultant. And like I said, y'all know how I hate to feel compelled to define myself by accomplishments and things like that. But I prefer to define myself by what I'm striving for, which is a powerful manifester, a God. So once again, Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome to those of you who are here and in the chat. Let me make sure I turn these comments on. There we go. Um, each year during Ramadan, I try to help us as conscious entrepreneurs to explore ways in which we can incorporate the 99 attributes, the spirit of revelation, Ramadan, into our daily business activities, because it's important for us as entrepreneurs to not forget that Ramadan is as important in our business lives as it is in our personal lives. You know, the devil makes evil fair seeming in that images, activities, words, etc., are introduced to us in a manner that causes us to ingest these deviant concepts that ultimately create and imprint us and mark us. That imprint or mark is attached to a frequency or a vibration. And the devil and his agents are attractive, popular, and masters of deception. And while we may think we are strong enough to not be transformed into devils, this is actually a spooky way of thinking and is in actuality what the devil wants us to think. So this is going to be a tough conversation for some of us. But I want to go into the ways in which the devil impacts our lives and imprints on us. Okay. And why is this important? This is important because as we understand the science of our bodies and the science of our minds, we have to become more aware of when we're influenced by something, when we are engaging in behaviors that are placing veils between us and our goals, us and our authenticity, us and our alignment with Allah. It could be small things like being competitive or being insecure or having an inordinate view of yourself, being a narcissist. You know, being a narcissist is just as bad as not thinking anything of yourself, according to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So if you have super low self-esteem, it's just as bad as being a narcissist. You just got the two ends of the spectrum. So we just have to learn how to identify those activities. And if we can catch ourselves in the act, we'll be a lot more successful. And even if you're successful now, if you say, hey, I can't be no more successful than I already am, then look, you could be shortchanging yourself. All right. So, but here are a few ways in which the devil impacts our lives and our businesses. Okay. Temptation and the inducement to sin. The devil is often portrayed as tempting individuals to sin by making evil appealing and desirable, leading them away from moral principles and spiritual integrity. And we're going to give some examples. I'm just going to read these because we have a lot to talk about. And I'm going to give some examples of these in my talk. I want this to be very, very practical so that we can catch ourselves when we're falling. We can catch ourselves when we're having thoughts. We can catch ourselves when we're being deceived, and we can seek restoration when we've been marked. Okay. Then there's deception and false teachings. The devil is depicted as a deceiver who spreads false teachings and doctrines, aiming to confuse and mislead people about the truth and God's will. There's instigating conflict and division. The devil's an instigator of conflict and division, seeking to sow discord and hatred among individuals and groups, promoting materialism and worldliness. You may be saying, what you talking about? What you mean by devil? I'm talking about dark energy, negativity, anything that prevents you or places a veil between you and Allah, or us and Allah. That's a devil. For this definition, that's what we're worrying about here, okay? We're really talking about the devil within. Okay. So I talked about the material worldliness, obstructing our spiritual growth. There could be something that we've gone through, something that we're dealing with that is really obstructing our spiritual growth, hindering our spiritual development, and hindering our ability to reach enlightenment. Okay. There are so many ways that this darkness or this negative energy uses tools to turn us out and turn us away from what is humane and moral. Okay. Y'all all right? I see you, brother Kashif Muhammad. Peace. Hey, Mom. Happy Thursday. And I want, I was going to say this a little later in the program. I see my mom in the chat. We were raised to be very accountable. Again, I mentioned before, I grew up at a time when we got whoopings. And we got a whooping for not being accountable for our mistakes or for lying to get out of something. We had to take ownership of mistakes. And that speaking up, being yourself, taking ownership laid a really good foundation and gave me a muscle so that I can help myself, right, to get back on track when I get off. So thank you for that, Mom. And I just want to share that. It's important for us, even with our children, to make sure that we force them to be accountable. But that's a whole nother subject. Okay. So today we're talking about that sacred art of restoration. The restorer, or al-Mu'id, is one of the 99 attributes of Allah, representing the ability to restore and renew. It signifies Allah's power to bring back to life what has been lost or destroyed. Just like we're restoring and bringing back to life the former home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We had to study the existing condition of the home, accept it, right? The home was in a certain condition when I got it, and I had to look at that condition. I had to accept that condition, and then I had to put together a plan of restoration. And I call these teachings, this supreme wisdom that we have access to, as given to us through Master Father Muhammad to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and to his chief student, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the restoration plan. Why was it in need of restoration? Because of neglect. Like many of us, we've neglected ourselves. We have not loved ourselves. Because of abandonment. Oftentimes we live like we're just shells. There's nothing there. There's nobody there. There's no love there. We're empty. Lack of attention. Sometimes we need a little attention. And that puts us in a place of being in need of restoration, being in need of al-Mu'ir. This attribute of Allah has been on my mind often. I asked Allah to show me why we as a people are in such need of restoration. And I kept coming back to the deviations from ourselves, being other than ourselves, as I was restoring and have been restoring the property and just tying it to us. How have we allowed the devil to imprint on us and put his mark on us? As entrepreneurs, we want to keep our head clear, right? And our nose clean. We want to stay creative so we can develop new business models and innovative product ideas. And when we are limited with our ideas and ways in which to partner with one another, we become limited in our businesses. I can't tell you how many spiritual or religious people think that the only way to do business is to be ruthless or cold or immoral or even illegal. So you hear them all the time saying, I don't like business. I don't know how to do business. I can't stand business. And it's unfortunate because we've been given an instruction to get up and do something for ourselves. We've been told that we got to rebuild these wasted cities. Now, everybody's not going to be a leader and an entrepreneur, but we should all understand the science of business. Think of it like this. It's like cursing. If you have a limited vocabulary and you want to tell somebody off, you may not have enough words in your arsenal in order to avoid using curse words. But you can really get with someone without using curse words. But first you need the vocabulary, and then you need the creative mindset or the creative wordsmithing to do so. Well, in business, if you're limited to just a couple of ways in which you conduct yourself, A couple of ways in which you've been exposed to business. Some people say, I've never really been exposed to business, or only business I know is when I've gone to work or when I've seen my parents go to work, or the only business I know are the pimps and hustlers and people in the street. Or the only business I know is just what's been around me. And you don't really have knowledge of numerous business models. You may tend to hover around doing what everyone else does, or doing something even illegal or immoral, or doing something that doesn't serve you. So exposing yourself to things that prevent you from elevating, or things that trigger your trauma, which automatically magnifies the emotional response and clouds your vision, can pinch you off from an infinite creative source that has fueled inventors and innovators in our community. I want you to think about some of the egregious acts that we see around us, that we participate in, that we think about, we see on television, we hear in programs that cause wear and tear on our relationship with ourselves, because that's what's happening. We need to be restored. We need to be restored like an old house or old furniture. Restoration, restoring our relationship with self by restoring our relationship with Allah. And today I want you to think about restoring your morality, your humanity, and protecting yourself. Stop exposing yourself to things thinking that is something new and cute. And if you find that you are exposed, learn how to avoid subscribing to the deviation. See, what happens is that someone says, I don't think enough of you to protect your spirit, so I'm going to say and do something to you, even though I know that you've been through so much trauma that just by exposing this to you is going to push you further and further away from Allah. I'm going to put you more and more in that space of self-betrayal. See, when a person cares about you and they love you, they're going to always be trying to create the conditions that help you to support yourself. In fact, these devils know that they can control you when you are overexposed to that which does not serve you. It's going to mess you up in the head so that you can't think clearly. You create a vibrational field of self-betrayal, and then self-betrayal becomes your lifestyle. And once self-betrayal becomes your lifestyle, trauma and hardship is how we live. We have to have a defined life with standards of conduct. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to accept our own and be ourselves. We have to live with clarity about who we are and whose we are. And we start to live with this level of defined understanding within ourselves, our lives get better and better and better and better. See, God will never require you to do something that makes you betray yourself and compromise your integrity. That would never be a business model that Allah will require you to deploy. So if you can't figure out what to do, then perhaps it's because you don't know enough. You don't have enough information. Maybe you're not being creative enough. There may be another factor causing things not to work out, like timing. But God will never put your back up against the wall and say, you better do this deviant thing or else you won't eat or you won't live. The right situation will come when we have patience and we seek refuge in Allah through prayer. All right, I'm going to keep going, okay? I hope y'all all right. You don't have to compromise yourself or play the game. God never asked you to do that. If we believe we have to do the negative thing to get ahead or to be loved or to be hip or cool, that means that we're not in the right place. And we need to spend some time getting in the right place and stop nursing self-betrayal. See, authenticity, which we talked about last week, is honoring yourself. That's what authenticity is. Do not compromise yourself. Do not betray yourself. See, we have these old, antiquated mindsets when it comes to money, and we are open to betraying ourselves in order to get it. But not only when it comes to money, but when it comes to attention, when it comes to what we want, we will bulldoze through anything just to get what we want, as opposed to seeking refuge in Allah and subscribing to a positive plan of action. See, our mindset is so old that we even think God is old school. You know that God grows and evolves? That's a deep subject right there. We act like God is this mean, demonic being just standing on the sideline with a whip, waiting to respond to our mistakes without mercy, without grace. This has been programmed into us and has been passed down through epigenetics. In order to have what we want, we've been taught for centuries that we need to give up our authentic selves in order to have what we want. For centuries, we've been forced to eat what's not good for us, sleep with people we don't want to sleep with. We compromise in relationships. We've been forced to get up when we don't want to get up, do what we don't want to do, to the point where we think that all this is normal. Today, we have to open ourselves up to a new way of thinking and a new way of being, and unsubscribe to that old life model. See, what we expose ourselves to sets the frequency for how we will live our life. We will always be a slave to the system if we keep letting forces outside of ourselves dictate the frequency that we live by. Who's running your life? And by what standards are you living your life? Is it the standard of the latest television show? Is it the standard of the latest music video? Is it the standard of the radio show you listen to? Where's your internal leadership? What is your foundation? What is your primary frequency? And are we vibrating with Allah? Do you realize that everything has a frequency and that we need to learn how to vibrate with the right frequency and to recognize when we are out of alignment? See, there's frequencies for failure. There's frequencies for success. There's frequencies for prosperity and abundance. There's frequencies for lack and limitation. There's frequency for fear. There's frequency for love. There's frequencies for every single thing you can imagine, because we live in a quantum universe. All right. Wa alaikum salam, Sister Monica. Ramadan Kareem, sis. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. You and I have to raise our awareness so that we understand the relationship between what we do and what we expose ourselves to and the frequency that we operate in. That's what Ramadan is all about. So during this blessed month of Ramadan, we are putting ourselves in a certain frequency. We are operating at a certain vibrational level. Our prayers and our fasting and our connection with the Ummah helps us to vibrate at a certain frequency. It's a frequency of healing, a frequency of restoration, a frequency of love, a frequency of repentance, a frequency of receiving God's love and blessings and getting closer and closer and closing the gap between ourselves and Allah. Life is all about cause and effect. So when you go out and do something ratchet, you know what frequency that is. Nobody has to tell you about the vibration. You and I know it. We know it intuitively. But what happens is we get addicted to the low vibration. We surround ourselves with people who are low vibrational. And we feel more comfortable in a low vibrational or low frequency space because oftentimes we're craving attention, and we want to, roll with other people who are operating there. And so we connect with them there. And so we stay there. And it becomes a comfort zone. And that comfort zone then begins to produce conditions that continue to cause us to betray ourselves. Like I said, next thing you know, we're living in a vibration of self-betrayal. We're living a life that we know betrays us. And in that vibration of self-betrayal, We're constantly living in fear. We can be easily controlled and manipulated because we are literally scared all the time. Do not take ownership of energy that comes from a place of self-betrayal. If somebody doesn't like you, doesn't think you're good enough, doesn't think you're attractive enough, unsubscribe. Don't take ownership of that. Move around. See, we all have to cure ourselves from this disease called polytheism, where we make gods besides Allah. We need to restore our relationship with Allah. People are walking around imprinting on us all day long. All day long. People are putting their imprints and their marks on us. Music imprints us. Movies imprint us. Just walking down the street and some of the things we see imprints us. And those imprints are just that, an imprint, a mark. And depending upon what we are subjecting ourselves to, we could be walking around wearing the mark of the devil. We are in need of restoration. And that restoration is an awareness of those imprints and a blueprint on how to restore ourselves and remove those marks. Do you know that imprint means imprint, or to impress or stamp a mark or outline on a surface or body? What we expose ourselves to leaves a mark on us. So we have to be aware of these imprints so that we know. I'm keep using this word awareness this morning so that we can be very, very clear that it's all about awareness. We have to stop walking around like zombies, not realizing that we control our energy, we control our vibration. We have to be able to check in with ourselves and say, how am I vibrating? And the best way to learn how to do that is through learning emotional intelligence, because your emotions are oftentimes your compass. When I became a certified emotional intelligence coach, that was the best thing that I could have ever learned. Because as a sensitive, empathic person like myself, I'm always scanning myself. How am I feeling? How am I doing? How am I vibrating? Ooh, I'm a little low right now. Okay, let me go do something to raise my vibration. Or, I'm about to create something. So let me get in a creative vibrational space. What do I have to do to get in that space? Always monitoring, managing, and controlling my vibrations. And whenever something hasn't worked or something has been off, it's usually because I've exposed myself to something that has not been of service to me. We have to be aware of these imprints so that we know that we need to go pray, or when we need to go meditate, or we need to go and spend time with someone that lifts our vibration. You got to learn to unsubscribe. When you get exposed to this negative energy, don't defend it. Don't defend yourself against it. See, because when you defend it, you intake. Just unsubscribe. Don't take ownership of that. Don't subscribe to and take ownership of something without asking yourself if that's in alignment with God's will for me to grow and to be happy and to create heaven on earth. So entrepreneurs, if I'm around someone who's like, oh, money's so difficult, we can't get no customers and it's hard to come by, my reaction is this: I don't take ownership of that. When we do that, like I just said, when you say I don't take ownership to it, this is what happens. That person didn't mean to imprint you. They're just complaining, and they're at a certain vibrational level where maybe they haven't learned to control their vibration, or maybe they just fell off. But when you are sitting there and you saying to yourself, you could say it out loud, but you could say it to yourself, I don't take ownership of that. What we do when we do that is what we just said immediately goes into our second chakra. And then it begins to start moving into our magnetic energy. And now it becomes what we call an anchored belief. So when you hear these things over and over again, whether it's somebody who abuses you and says something negative about you all the time, somebody gaslighting you, somebody who just talks negative about you, if you don't counter that with a more empowering belief, then what they're saying to you makes a mark on you and becomes what they call an anchored belief. And it's sometimes so subtle that you don't even realize that when you then go to your next situation, when you go to do business, when you go to work with one of your employees or a contractor, you are working from the space of that anchored belief that came from the abuse that you just experienced. Real simple. Just say, I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that. You don't have to defend it. You don't have to try to come up with some other reason why. Just, I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to that. So if someone says something that you don't agree, supports your alignment with Allah, you can sit there and say to yourself right in their face, I don't take ownership of that. You can say it silently or you can say it out loud. That will help to prevent what they're saying from imprinting on you, and it will solidify what you're saying into your anchor belief system. See, your subconscious mind hears you saying, I don't take ownership of that. I don't subscribe to that. And it knows what to do. See? But don't just sit there and listen and watch without any type of response on your part, which now allows it to imprint and anchor into your belief system. And it weakens you. I'm telling you. And when you start to practice this, you'll be able to tell when somebody's coming from a weakened, anchored belief system. And it happens to the best of us. You know, we might just have been through a difficult project and just got beat up and it was so hard and we just had to keep knocking on doors. We had to hear 1,000 no's before we heard that one yes. And every single time, maybe we didn't say, I don't subscribe to this. I don't take ownership. Maybe we didn't. I was listening to a program the other day. And I learned this. When you have been frustrated and annoyed with what's going on in the world, and you've been allowing yourself to go into negative vibrational fields, so when a negative person talks and gives you suggestions like how you going to pay for that and what you going to do about that, in the midst of when you're hurt or disappointed, sometimes you start listening. Because oftentimes you're looking for a reason to help you explain why something isn't going to work out. And so when a person starts talking negative in the midst of you being hurt and disappointed and you're broken open in essence, sometimes you start listening. So what we have to look at first of all is what we're upset about. So if you don't look at the part of you that's upset with things and been disappointed, then you're not going to look at the part of you that explains why you're so suggestible to negativity. See, people with dark energy can only make suggestions. Remember, the devil doesn't create. The devil can only steal and destroy. The problem with that, though, is when they make those negative suggestions, sometimes we listen. They say stuff like, what if you can't pay that bill? Or what if you run out of this or that? Or you run out of money? Or you end up in the street? Or what if this and what if that? This happens all day long in the news. Happens all day long on shows that we watch. You know, if any voice speaks to me that does not come from a high vibrational place, I do not take ownership of that. I will not move around the world from a low anchored belief system. I'm sorry, but I'm only listening to God's love. I'm only listening to my spirit. I'm only listening to people that speak love and truth. I have no time to listen to darkness. I make sure I'm studying. I try to study every day. That's why I love Ramadan. I get up at 3:30. I'm done with all my stuff by 5, my Fajr prayer, and I'm ready. I could be looking you dead in the face. And I'm saying to myself, I do not take ownership of that. If you are saying something that does not align with my goals, with the blueprint that Allah has given me, whenever I've taken ownership of somebody else's negative, slick, or manipulative view of me, I could immediately see the effect in my life. I was in a situation one time where there was a person in my life that I thought was a really good friend, or at least I wanted them to be. And this person was a person of influence. And whenever this person would say something shady or negative, it would pierce my heart. And it took me a long time, literally just until recently, to peep game with this person. And I would notice that my productivity and my ability to manifest would go down. I would be in a low space right after I would talk to this person. And this is why we have to be careful with how we define love. Because sometimes we'll say, you know what, I love her or I love him. And that person is constantly imprinting on us. And we allow it because we love it. And what made me know that this person really either was in a dark space or didn't love me is because I got to the point where the person would look down on me, gaslight me as if I wasn't good enough, talk to me in a way that I literally started to look at them and say, you know what? You got a devilish spirit. And I'm not taking ownership of that. I unsubscribe to your vibration. And I'm not going to keep coming back month after month, time after time, as if I bought and paid for a subscription to this. No, thank you. I cancel my subscription. And even in cases where that person may be in an authority over you, maybe it's a boss, maybe it's somebody you got to work with, you don't have to subscribe. You don't have to subscribe. You see, these people find a way to imprint on us because we are disappointed, because we are hurt. And oftentimes we're going to them for healing. We're going to that person for restoration when we should really be going to Allah. Seek refuge in Allah, which is really the awareness of the relationship between what we do and what we expose ourselves to, who we're around, how we move, our frequency, our vibration. See, the plan of restoration, the restoration plan, those blueprints that Allah gives us, that way, that code of conduct is what's going to put us in the right frequency space. What it has to do with is what you've been disappointed, is when you've been disappointed, you've been frustrated, you wanted things to be a certain way, you didn't get what you wanted because you weren't in alignment and because you let other people dictate things for you for a while, and you gave up on your own power and your own self-sovereignty. And so you let yourself start listening to negative influences energetically and mentally and emotionally, and therefore you took yourself out of alignment. It's like when you get mad, you want to get in the car and put on some rap music. Who do we got here? Sister Nala's here. Assalamu alaikum, sis. And Rasan D. Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum. All right, we're almost done, y'all. We're almost done. I want to read to you the excerpts. I didn't bring the book in here. I've been studying this book called The Secrets of Divine Love. And as I close out, I want to read an excerpt from this book. It's so beautiful. I want you to just relax and close your eyes. And I want you to listen to these words. And I want you to use these words to help dissolve some of the veils between yourself and Allah. And only you and Allah know what those veils are. We all have it. We all struggle. This is why there's no, we don't look down on each other or even look up to each other in Islam. It's all about helping each other on this journey. But I want you to close your eyes. And I just want you to relax right where you are. And I'm going to read these words to you from this beautiful book called The Secrets of Divine Love. You matter to Allah, and He loves you unconditionally. You were created intentionally with a divine purpose. The seeds have been planted for you to blossom into who Allah created you to be. So return to your Lord, no matter how long you've been lost, no matter how long you have gone astray, no matter what you have done or said. Allah is waiting to embrace you with his forgiveness and love. Return to him. Let him love you and heal you and remind you that you are worthy. Let him show you that you are more than enough and that in his eyes you are perfect because he never makes mistakes. Return to him. Allow him to restore you to himself. Let him part the clouds of your grief and show you the brilliant sun you carry deep inside. Let him unveil the gems that are hidden within your soul. Return to him and let him pour peace into every crevice and crack of your heart. Every time you go astray, return to him. He will welcome you. Every time you fall short, return to him. Allah is waiting for you. Return to his ocean of love and let him embrace you with the healing waves of his endless mercy. He has the power to restore you, no matter how long you've been abandoned, no matter how long you've been neglected, no matter how empty you feel, no matter how disconnected you may feel like you are. Allah can and will restore you. He is the restorer. Al-Mu'ir. That's my talk today, y'all. Let me know if you have any questions. I see Frankie Marigo says, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you all for being in the chat this morning. Let me know if you have any comments, questions, anything you want to discuss. Did this talk help you a little bit? Did it help us to close that gap between us and Allah a little bit? I didn't really focus on that lately. It's just one of those subjects that Allah has really been putting on my brain, because sometimes I hear us talking and I hear us teaching, and it's like we get so into trying to learn more and be scholarly, which is important. But in that scholarly effort, sometimes we forget ourselves and we forget to internalize. Thank you, Sister Nala. Thank you. She says she needed that. Thank you. We forget to internalize Allah. We forget who we are and whose we are. So thank you all. Thank you, each and every one of you all. And when I thought about the restorer, I thought about the home that we're restoring of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the abandonment, the neglect. The name of the book is, let me get the name for you, sis. It is The Secrets of Divine Love. You can Google it or get it on Amazon. It's called The Secrets of Divine Love. And it just talks about all the ways in which Allah loves you. And the author and she talks about Ramadan, and she talks about just love. And I think that's what we need right now. Because sometimes we see Allah, we act like he's some demon sitting on the side of the road with a whip, waiting to get us and waiting to choke us and punish us and cause us to struggle and beat us up. But Allah came not only to make himself known, but to save us. That's why we call him the Savior. And yes, there are lessons we have to learn. Yes, there are spaces where he has to put us in so that we become stronger and we strengthen our weaknesses. But at the root of it all, he loves us. He loves us. All right. So I Plant and See says, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Beautiful words and reminder. Thank you, sis. Thank you. And thank you for listening. Wa alaikum salam. Off forgiving, most forgiving and returning. Yes, Frankie. Sister Nala said, you're inspiring. I hear you. Praise be to Allah. All right, family. Thank you so much. If this did anything for you today, I ask everybody to give $25 to the cause. Sajda Enterprises, you can Cash App. You can Zelle. It's all going across the bottom here. Let's get in the habit of financing our own freedom. Let's stop waiting for somebody else to tell our story, to restore us. And I'm just working on more and more things to help shine the light of Allah in a space where there is so much darkness, so much darkness. I want the work that I do to be a light. I want, whether it's business consulting, business development, whether it's the historic preservation work, I want it to be a light that can illuminate the darkness. We just keep going around shining that flashlight of love. When you come to the home, when you come to the sacred museum space, I want you to feel that light, that energy. I want you to be calling me saying, hey, you there? You open today? I just want to come there and get some of that energy. There's some people who know that secret now. And we have meetings. And when we have planning meetings in the home, the energy is just through the roof. And I sat, Brother Tori and I are working on Black Chicago Eats and the Taste of Black Chicago, which we're going to be doing this summer. And we sat Saturday in the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And man, when I tell you, the creativity was just flowing. And there's been several people that I've met within the home. And that is the type of space that I want to create. And I've been thinking of that for a very long time. I want all my businesses to be that. I always want to be an asset. If you just walk past me, I want you to go, there was something about that. She just touched me with something. Because we have enough pain and enough darkness in the world. It's time for us to return to Allah and have that blueprint and get the mark of the devil off of us. All right, family. I love you all very much. I thank you. Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you for listening. Please like and share the channel. And I will see you all, inshallah, very, very soon. All right. Let's see. Look like we got one more comment in here. Frankie says, Alhamdulillah. All right. All praises due to Allah. Assalamu alaikum, family. I'm just going to sign straight off. Peace and blessings.